Hello, I'm Lucas, and this is a Bit of Lit, and I'm not sure how to handle recording this review, because I keep trying, but I keep making it too long, because I've been focusing on all the short stories, because I've been reading Codan Moses with Codex Cantina, with their read-along, but I went ahead and finished it because I have nothing else to do. And I've been focusing on each individual story, and then it just ends up being forever and me rambling on through this difficult text, not meaning to make an in-depth review like they are, just a brief review to give you an idea of what to expect if you are interested in this book. I recommend it, but I think it's a difficult read. It's complex. It touches on a lot of sensitive nerves, and it follows the McCaslin family through the generations, and just the nightmare that is. The central focus being Isaac McCaslin, who features in a number of these stories. And I don't even know how to handle it. I recommend reading it. If you can get past the first chapter, the first short story which introduces Isaac and how his cousin McCaslin Edmonds told him a story about Uncle Buck and Uncle Buddy, who are the sons of the patriarch at the top, Carruthers McCaslin. McCaslin Edmonds was with Uncle Buck and Buddy searching for a runaway slave who was running away to be with Tenny, another slave on another piece of land owned by Hubert Beauchamp. And it turns out that Tomies Turtle, the runaway slave, is also the brother of Uncle Buck and Uncle Buddy, which naturally complicates things. And it's implied or inferred by Uncle Isaac in later stories that Tommy, the mother of Turtle, is not only the lover, property, like the slave property lover of Carruthers McCaslin. As evil as that is, she's also the daughter. And I'm letting you know, like, the worst parts about it now, in terms of the sensitive subjects. Because this deals with slavery and ownership and even spirituality, ecology, in a way, generational changes and dynamics, and incest, of course, like I mentioned, because there's more than that. There is, and ignorance when it comes to race and everything. It's such a firestorm of emotion and anger and searching for meaning and understanding and the complexity of humanity. There's no great place to start. I'm just going to leave a link to all the discussions, and as they finish up, I'll add each link to each discussion from Codex Cantina, because they're going in depth, and that's not what I want to do. They've been doing a great job to help explain it. There are times where I've been reading along and I didn't really understand it. The parts that they haven't gotten to yet, I've gone to see what other reviewers have said and what else is on the internet to say about it, just for some parts where I wasn't quite sure where I got it, because there are difficult parts in this book to read. Namely in The Fire in the Hearth, which follows Lucas Beauchamp, who is the son of Tomies Turrell. And it follows his obsession with finding this money that he believes Uncle Buck and Uncle Buddy hid away. And it comes at the detriment of his marriage to Molly. And it's very strange because he doesn't need the money. We find out that he actually has quite a bit of it, quite a bit of his own money. But we also see that he believes that he's sort of disenfranchised, which he is, because of the color of his skin, because he's from the black side of the McCaslin family, whereas, his cousin is from the white side, but he feels that Lucas Beauchamp feels more like a descendant, a proper descendant than his cousin, because his cousin comes from a woman in the family, and that's its own issue, but he feels sort of delegitimized, and it's like he thinks that this money will legitimize him, but it's costing him his marriage, which then he has to make a choice, his marriage or the money, and legitimization in its own weird, dark way. And there's Isaac McClasson. I can't say the name right. We see him in a couple different stories about hunting. One's his rite of passage, where he is taught by Sam Fallers, who is the son of the chief that sold the land, and his wife and his son, Sam Fallers, into slavery to white people. And, everything really builds on it. All these things that get introduced, they get built upon, and they're sort of changed and subverted in different ways and discussed. It never really hits the same note. It comes from different angles and different emotions and different ways. And then in The Bear, which is just a mammoth of unreadability for the second half, it's still good. It's just inaccessible, to say the least. He's hunting this bear. It has this really great spiritual thing along with the old people with the buck. But the bear is this like big mythic beast that they are trying to take down. And, they have a lion, and the way that they take it down is sort of inhumane, which, Faulkner is taking certain positions, but with each character, you can look at them and you fully understand them. You don't ever condemn or appraise, I guess, them. You always see them for their humanity. But the way that the bear is taken, it almost does seem initially like it's a great thing, but with all this stuff coming in later from the unreadable part, that is very difficult to read. Great to read, but it's just really difficult and pretentious. Isaac has gotten a little bit older, and it's time for him to take ownership, but he doesn't want to. He wants to renounce it and repudiate it. He doesn't want any part of it because he does not believe that you can own land or, people or things. And it ends with this great image of this guy, Boone, who was brutal to this bear, sort of being a wild man and hunting these squirrels and claiming that they're his, when Isaac comes up to him after the land has been changed by loggers and railroads and all this stuff. And, with the land being sold by the head chief, and the way the world's been terraformed and deswamped and all this other stuff, and the trees been cut down. It really calls to question, ownership and the evils of it, and what it means and all this other stuff, and it's just, and just quickly, then we have another story with Isaac as an old man, going on a trip with Carruthers Edmonds, who I think is his, nephew, cousin, or something. A younger cousin, young nephew, and they're arguing about human nature, and Isaac sort of has this optimistic side that, I wrote it down, men are a little better than their circumstances give them to be, which is kind of optimistic, kind of there's problems with it, but, and Carruthers feels people only act out of fear of punishment. They go on this hunting trip near where this woman lives that Carruthers has a thing with, who is a black woman, and he gives Isaac an envelope that has money in it. Excuse me, my face is itchy, and I don't want to touch my face directly. And the woman ends up coming, and she is related to them. She is from the black side of the McCaslin family, and she's with child, and she's the granddaughter of Tenny's Jim, who went with Uncle Isaac on some hunting trips when he was a young man, and Tenny was married to Tommy's Turl, who's the father of Lucas, and now the family sides have been united, and it's and then of course there's Go Down Moses, which follows Samuel Beauchamp, kind of, who's being asked questions about his family by a census taker while he's in prison, and Molly, who is married to Lucas, who's not in this story. I don't know why. Maybe it's a different Molly, but I don't think so. Goes to, what's his name? Sorry, I have notes over here. Stevens something. Gavin Stevens, the district attorney, to help her because she feels that Carruthers Edmonds sold her boy to Egypt. And essentially becomes a mission to get the body of Samuel Beauchamp back because he killed a police officer. So he's going to be put up for execution. And there's a lot of sort of ignorance shown in that story from Gavin's perspective. He takes this sort of traditional paternal instinct approach to this, but then he sort of backs out of it, which is optimistic, I guess. He starts to realize his own ignorance, and that these are people too. It's an amazing book. I have not mentioned one of the stories. It's the third story, Pantaloon in Black, which is my favorite story. But I would say Go Down Moses is another. It's probably my second one. Fire on the Hearth is my third. And then probably The Bear, then The Old People, and then Was, and then Delta Autumn. Anyway, for Pantaloon in Black, it's about this. It's sort of unrelated, but it's set, sorry, again with the face. It's not about the McCaslin clan. It's on their land. It's this black man, this big, strong guy, who's sort of housed at Lucas Beauchamp's old place. So this is, I think, the story that takes place furthest in the future, or maybe that's Go Down Moses, I'm not sure. But Ryder's wife dies, and he's stricken with grief, and he doesn't know how to handle his emotions, and that comes to fatal ends for him and others. And this story is really incredible because it really talks about, it really shows levels of ignorance and inability to understand, because it has two perspectives. One, a more intimate approach to understanding the story of Ryder, and then a sheriff's deputy, retelling it to his wife, and just the dichotomy of those viewpoints it's worth discussing. There are problems with it. There are some points that are very white savior, white man's burden, kind of, in was maybe even some of the other parts in chapter 5, maybe with the bear, Goat and Moses, the story itself with Gavin Stevens, but it's a book worth spending time with and grappling with and, looking at. My main problem with it is the bear, when it becomes almost impossible to read. When it goes into his memory, the content is fantastic, the style is pretentious, and I don't like it. And I'm now won over by Faulkner. I will read more of him. I think he writes people really well and tackles a lot of complex emotions and touches a lot of nerves in difficult ways, but interesting ways. And so I will continue to read Faulkner, but I have a kind of love-hate relationship with him because I think he's kind of pretentious, and I don't like that, but I like the content, so it's difficult to say, condemn or praise. It's worth spending your own time to make your own opinion, I guess. So yeah, that's it. Thank you. Bye.